So we're going to test the switch on the, what do they call this? The boiler control. This makes sure there's always enough water in the boiler for it to be firing safely. As you can see in the sight glass, there's water down in there, but it is below our safety limit. So what's going to happen here is I've just cleaned and kind of refreshed a little valve in here that currently would be filling the boiler, except its supply of water is cut off right now. So there's a screen in here that was all corroded. Well, it wasn't itself corroded, but it was clogged with rust and sediment. And then the valve itself was pretty sticky. So we cleaned up the valve and the screen. Now the valve moves freely. The valve is influenced by this rod right here, mostly in shadow. There you go. Now it's got light on either side of it. As the float in the tank comes up, it will allow the water pressure in here to close the valve. It's a little float check valve. And as the water pressure is what will eventually close it. Right now it's being held open by the float. So as soon as I undo this guy, it will start to fill the boiler. Now I've set the thermostat to call for heat, but right now the boiler is not firing because there's not enough water in the boiler. And that is measured, the water level in the boiler is measured by the float in here. So as this slowly starts to fill, and you can see we've got more water in our sight glass already, as this starts to fill, we'll hear a sharp click from our switch here. That's also activated by the same float. So once the float mechanically communicates to the switch that the boiler is sufficiently full, we'll hear a sharp click, and then we'll hear the boiler start to fire. So that should happen here pretty soon. There's a little bit of a click. We're starting for this valve to close. I just heard, so it took some time, but it worked. And you can hear the high-pitched hiss is the water coming through this valve here. And that's going to be overwhelmed by the sound of the boiler firing now. And so now we have a functional boiler controller. It will cut off flame when it's empty and allow the boiler to fire when it is detected it's full. Good enough.